How's it going, everyone? Can you hear me fine? Let's move this over here. We'll get started in just a couple minutes, setting up something on Discord for the questions. As usual, we'll be doing some announcements, then some content, which will include question and answer. So if you have any questions at all, you can prefix them with Q colon, question, or question colon, and those will be posted to somewhere I can see them. I'll also be reading chat, of course, and that should work good. So just a couple minutes while we get this set up. All right, it's not working, no big deal. All right, so welcome to the stream. We are going on the second stream for doing Linux. This one's going to be on the command line. So as far as channel announcements, they're actually the same as last week's announcements. If you watched last stream, we are going to be streaming for a total of 10 streams over 20 weeks. And then in the off weeks between those streams, we will be doing Linux content. The goal is to have the stream roughly be the same as the video that preceded it. So last week's video was command line, so this stream is going to be kind of centered on command line. The stream should be at a beginner intermediate level. I'm not going to be covering anything too crazy, so if you're new to Linux or you just want like a refresher or something like that, then this should be helpful to you. And that's it for the announcements. Let's just go ahead and jump in. So we'll be doing a bunch of stuff in this stream. I got a bunch of questions submitted. Actually, before I begin, I probably sound a little weird. I'm a little sick right now. I'm having a little hard time talking. I didn't want to cancel the stream over that, so we're gonna do the best we can here. So some questions were submitted ahead of time. Every time before stream, I put out a Google Forms thing, and I'm gonna make myself smaller here. I put out a Google Forms thing to, for everybody to submit questions that way. That's a great way to, if you want to get your question answered on the stream, then that's going to be the best, most effective way to do so. I always prioritize questions that are submitted ahead of time, and thank you to everybody who submitted them. I think I got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 questions. So that'll be good. Thanks to all those people who did that. And in addition to that, I'll be looking at questions in chat. So feel free to post them there and discuss anything you might want, and we'll get it moving. So the first question that was asked, this was by Unknown. He or she asked, what are awk and sed? So these are common Linux utilities that I roughly categorize as text processors. So sed more so than awk. They both do roughly the same thing. Awk, however, is actually an entire programming language, and it's much more broad than sed. Sed I kind of think of as simple text processing. Sed's really good for like search and replace, either from standard in, so like text that's input into the command. And then sed can also read from files and things like that, so it's useful for that. I want to demonstrate something with sed. So sed is a command. What we're going to do with sed is we're going to take some text. We'll do like, hello world. So if I write echo hello world here, it just prints out hello world. What I can then do is I can pipe it into sed. And pipe just means take the output of one command and supply it as the input of a second command. So if I do echo hello world, and I do a pipe symbol, and I do sed, I'm gonna supply an expression, but this expression is just gonna be empty. So if I do that, I get the exact same thing. This basically says sed took hello world as an input, and then it did absolutely nothing to it. So inside this expression, this is where we can specify like what could be replaced or other things that sed can do. So what we'll do is we'll do substitution. To do substitution, you do an S, a slash, you specify the word or pattern that it should replace. So I'm gonna type world, you type another slash, and then you do the text that it should be replaced with. So we'll do like hello, Mars. Do another slash, hit enter, and you can see that it changed that to hello Mars as opposed to hello world. So this can also take entire files and do search and replace in files. It's extremely good at that. Yeah, awk and sed save me so much time at work. Learn them, get good at them, live them. That's absolutely correct. They're so useful. Sed supports taking input as from standard in. Sed also supports taking input just as a file. And then it can also like replace in place if you want to do it that way as well. Or you could just have it output what would be the replaced version, and then you can do something else with that. Hey, what distro is this? This is Xubuntu, which is based on Debian. It's the one I've been using for pretty much the entire time I've been using Linux. Importance of tools like awksed, curl, grep. So awksed, very important. Curl is it's a network utility. It's kind of a network Swiss Army knife, kind of. So curl is good for if you want to make HTTP requests to somewhere. So like if I do curl https emkc.org, when I hit enter, what it does is it gives me the value of the HTML that comes back from that. I could also, like, if I want to get the Piston runtimes, emkc.org API. Of course, I don't actually remember it now. What is it? Piston API v2. Geez, I don't actually remember what it is now. Just a moment. I want to show you something cool with it. All right, I got it. So for Piston, if I want to get the runtimes, it's not just HTML. If I copy this in here, you can see I get JSON, and this is the JSON version of all the runtimes. So curl can also show you like verbose output if you want to see the whole thing. So if you supply a -v, what this will show you is like the handshake, the IP it's connecting to. Anywhere you see a right caret, that's the request headers, and then left caret is the response headers, and then finally the actual body. So curl is a very important utility. That's definitely something that you'll want to get good at as well. You'll use that a lot. And the other one was grep. So thank you for bringing that up. Nobody actually asked about grep. So grep is a great way of the pattern matching on output. It's also a great way of searching through files, either singular or recursively, to find things in files. So that's very useful. You might have heard the phrase like log grepping. So let's look at a sample file on my computer. So like var log syslog. So there's a lot of, there's a ton of stuff in syslog. I'm actually gonna do less. So my system log has a ton of different stuff, but what I can do is if I just want to find stuff that has the word Docker in it, I can do cat var syslog grep Docker, and that'll highlight me everything that has the word Docker in it. If I want to actually search within a file, I could also do this just via grep if I wanted to. So this command I had here, cat var syslog grep Docker, could also be replaced with grep Docker var syslog, same output. So the difference is grep is its own program, but you can also pipe stuff into it. So it's just like everything else on Linux. It's more than one ways to skin a cat. Yeah, curl API 5 format JSON. Yeah, it's like Control F. So there is also a, you can kind of do the same with less as well. And I talked about less in my last video. But there's other things you can do with less as well. Like if you do var log syslog, and you can navigate up and down with your page up, page down keys. If you notice in the bottom left hand corner here, there's whoops, I didn't mean to do that. So in the bottom left hand corner here, there's things you can actually type. So if you did a slash and you type Docker and you click enter, it's going to locate the nearest match for Docker, which is going to be here. And then you can keep hitting N, and that'll just keep going to the next occurrence of Docker. So this is a way of, this is truly like Control F in the terminal. You open it with less, you use slash, you type the thing you want to do, and then clicking N is kind of like clicking the next button. And then if you want to go backwards, you can do Shift N. That'll go to the previous instance of the word that you're searching. Yes, regex is magic for sure. I have a good video on regex. If regex is at all intimidating or crazy to anybody, and you feel like you just don't know it, it's not making sense, I have an excellent regex video. I guarantee once you're done watching that video, you'll be like, oh, this isn't so bad. Less versus more. So the difference between less versus more is more was intended for like CRT monitors to view like pages of information at a time. So if I were to do more varlog syslog, it tells me I'm at 0%. If I click the spacebar, then it goes down 1 screen's worth. So if I hold spacebar, it just scrolls through everything, and it tells me I'm 54% through. More or less do kind of the same stuff. They let you navigate through files. Less, for sure, is a lot more comprehensive than more. It can do a lot more things. Less is more, more is less. Yep, that's right. All right, moving on to the next thing. So this was a good question, Honey Boo Boo. I thought that was funny. What are some key shortcuts in the terminal to save time? So there's a number of ones. The ones that I thought were the ones that let you navigate quicker in commands. So say you paste, let me get rid of this. Well, actually, that was one of the first shortcuts. If you want to clear your terminal, just Control L. Hold Control, hit L, clears the terminal. Easy. So if you have a really long command, so let's say like you do, you paste a bunch of stuff in the terminal. I probably should have been prepared for this, but I'm not. So I'll take a, let me find a long command to paste in here that just does some stuff. Okay, doesn't matter. We'll just do this differently. So if I do ls-l and I specify like var user, var lib, root, then it shows me a bunch of things. So if I have a command and I want to navigate quickly in that command, say I just want to change /var. So I have a couple different options I can do. I could click home and I can move my cursor out there. The other option is I can do Control W. I'm sorry, not Control W. That's not what I meant. Alt B and Alt F. Sorry, not Alt F. What is it? It's obviously not Alt F, but Alt B goes backwards. I don't remember what the actual forward one is, but that lets you navigate backwards. The one that I really like is actually deleting entire words at a time. So if I want to delete things, you can do Control W, and that acts a lot like the Control backspace. So that's extremely useful because that's something that a lot of us would do while adding code a lot. So there's things in the terminal that I wish worked. Like if you write a bunch of stuff and you actually do Control backspace, it just deletes a single character. Not as useful. I don't know why Alt F is not working. I obviously got that wrong. So the last thing is the 2 exclamation marks, which we would call a bang bang. And what that does is that runs the last command again. So if I were to do ls-l, and then I do bang bang, I get it a second time. So that'll run the command again. This is really useful if you type a long command and you get a permission denied thing. So if I were to do like apt update, and it says, oh, sorry, permission denied, you're not allowed to do that, rather than typing apt update again. Now, obviously, apt update is not that long, but it could be. If I want to run this again as root, I could do sudo and 2 exclamation marks. That'll take sudo and it'll run the previous command, but as a super user. And so you can see it actually functions properly in this case. Alt F worked for me just now. Alt B. Oh, you know what Alt F is doing? It's opening up like my file thing. So maybe that's like that's unfortunate. So maybe it's like an xterm thing. Was there? Well, xterm doesn't do anything because xterms do basic, but Yeah, 2 exclamation marks is definitely a time saver, big time. Yeah, that's weird. So Alt F must only work on certain things. It's not, doesn't seem to want to work on mine. It wants to instead open the file menu for the terminal. That's okay though, no big deal. I suppose another shortcut is your Control C and your Control D. So Control D is the equivalent of typing exit. So that'll exit your terminal. So if you were to do like sudo-s and drop to root, if you wanted to just exit that without typing exit, you could do Control D. And then Control C is just your, anytime a script's going crazy or you need to exit out of it, you can use Control C. Control C will also terminate the program that you're currently in. So if I open up something like NVIDIA settings, and this is just my, I'm gonna move this over. So, this is my thing that, controls like, the monitor resolutions and layout of everything I'm doing. This is still a program that was opened up from this terminal. So if I go back to this terminal and I press Control C, you can see that program disappears. So the program is only open for as long as the command stays running. If you click Control C, then that just wipes it out. Just looking for chat for any questions. Is there any easy way to store some commands from history permanently? So permanent storage of commands, if you wanted to actually have them so you could run them again, a good option for that would be to either create a script file that contains those commands you want to store, or you could use something like an alias but to actually store something from history, I suppose you could increase the size of your history, file to infinite. I suppose that'd be another option. Not entirely sure what that means, but there's a lot of ways to retain things that you used to use from history. Yeah, so these are my favorite shortcuts. These save a ton of time. Because I hate having a long command and just having to hold arrow left until you get to the beginning. It's quite bad. Okay, this was a really good question. This was asked by Rory. He asked, what is the difference between running a program with bash or sh and running it by typing a dot in front of it? So this is a common misconception. So when you run a command such as, let me create a simple bash command. I'll call it like, test.sh. We'll just, echo hello. So this particular program is not currently executable because it doesn't have the execution bit to be ran. So to do that, we do chmod plus x, specify the name, and you got that now. So once you have that, you can still run it with bash. You can just do bash, test.sh. You can also do /test.sh. But there's one other way you can do it. You can do dot space test.sh. And I think this is the one that he's wondering about. So when you do it this way, the way in which this is different is the previous two ways with bash test.sh and /test.sh. What these are doing is these are running it as a script in a second process, the normal like fork and exec thing. If you do .sh, what you're actually doing is you're saying take the contents of test.sh and run it as if it was being ran in this current command line. So another way to do dot is source, and that does the exact same thing. So to kind of illustrate this difference, so I'm gonna take my existing shell file and I'm going to put the command cd into it. Now the reason I'm doing this is because my current working directory is home Brian sample temp. My home directory is home Brian. So when I run cd, it puts me back to my home directory. But what happens if I execute test.sh? It has cd in it. I click enter. well, why am I still in /home/Brian/sample/temp? That's because test.sh was ran in a separate process. It cannot affect the current shell that I'm in, and it can't affect any of that. However, if I source that file with test.sh, you can see that I am now in my home directory. And that's because it took the contents of test.sh and it ran it within the context of my current shell. So that was a very good question that he asked. This is sometimes a misconception. This is also why like profile files, bash profile, bash rc, it's the reason why all of these are sourced instead of executed, is because all these things are intended to alter your existing shell. And that's why they're done like that. So thank you for that question, Rory. That was a very good one. How you pronounce Ubuntu? So I like purposely pronounce it wrong. It's actually pronounced Ubuntu. That's what it's pronounced. But I didn't know that at the time I started using it, and now it's just totally ingrained in my head that I pronounce it like, you know, like I read it. I say Ubuntu. Evidently, it's not Xubuntu. I was told the other day that it's like Zubuntu, but I don't know that I'm ever going to actually say that. That would be very hard for me to change. But just for posterity, I want to state that the actual correct pronunciation is Ubuntu. All right, next question. Moving on. What's a good question so far? The real ways. I think it's actually like, is it South African? It's a South African word, maybe. I don't remember exactly. I think it also depends who my audience is. You know, if I'm trying to be technically accurate, I'll probably say Ubuntu just as to not confuse. But people that watch my channel know me well enough to know that I call it Xubuntu. I tend to pronounce things as they read. That's also why I say regex, as opposed to like regex. It's because I'm pronouncing it as it's read, even though, you know. Question: if I make history infinite long and there's, you know, like 2 million times ls and cd, is there an easy way to clean duplicates? Yes. So I think there is a. Let me try something here. So if we do echo ASD new line ASD. Oops. Don't know how to do new lines because. How do we do new lines? There it is. Okay, so this is exactly how you could do it. If you wanted to do a history with only unique lines, you could cat your history into the unique command, and that will make every line unique. So that would be the way to do it. Okay, I think I kind of already covered this. How come we can just do /program in term to run programs? So that's by Sanjay. So the reason this works is because of the executable bit. So in here, whoops, in, what was that, sample temp? Yeah, okay. No, I wasn't in sample temp, I was in sample TMP. Okay, so the whole thing around the execution bit is when you set this bit right here, also these, what this will do is when you do /test.sh, what it does is it looks for this line right here. This is called the shebang line. And this instructs the shell how it ought to execute this program, even though it's not like a binary executable. That has a different way in which it works. So in this way, it's kind of the equivalent as copying this, doing that, and supplying test.sh. The same actual outcome occurs. And the nice way to, the reason I use user bin env bash instead of like user bin bash is because I want to know where the current bash is set according to the environment. And that makes it so if bash is located in a different location between systems, you don't have a script that only works on one particular system. So this is a a pretty safe way of ensuring that this gets ran with bash, as long as bash is installed anywhere. And that's the way that I recommend people do it. Where's the cap, man? You know, I made a decision. I decided that from here on out, I am going I'm going hair reveal. So no more hat, I think, moving forward. I know it's a big change. It's a big change, but I kind of like it. I'd just like to say that everything is a file. Even the commands you enter are files. So you are absolutely correct. Everything is indeed a file. And I almost stated that in my last video. I didn't want to confuse, but that's a Unix thing. Everything's a file. That's also why there's lots of read-only files to like figure out, you know, things about a system. So, you know, if you want to know the processor for your system, it's cat/proc/CPU info. Excuse me. You know, this is just a bunch of read-only files. So if I go to /proc, let's do ls instead. You know, all of these are actually folders for PIDs. Again, everything's a file. Process is a file, file descriptors are files, everything's files. And then there's a number of different read-only, like the Linux kernel in memory is this giant like read-only file system. And that's, you know, furthermore why everything's a file. You know, even in /dev, so all of your devices, they are all files. That's why, like, if you're referring to hard disks, you know, /dev/sda, sdb, you know, that is a physical disk, but to the system, it's a file. So everything's a file. So thank you for bringing that up, David. I appreciate that. And that is absolutely correct. Next question was from Prince. How is rsync over SSH and TLF used to sync files across servers? What are some alternatives? So rsync, just wanted to show some support. Thanks a lot, David, for that $20. I appreciate that. If you have any more questions, let me know for sure. Your questions were good so far, so thank you for that. And thank you for the support. I really appreciate it. So some alternatives to rsync. Rsync is great at syncing files. Whether it's local file systems or over SSH, there's a variety of different things that it can do. One of perhaps the best things that rsync does is its ability to dedupe files. So if you sync one folder, if you sync folder 1 to folder 2, you can say, you know, delete everything in folder 2 that's no longer in folder 1, and then also add new things from folder 1 that's not in folder 2, and then you can also have it rename stuff. So it can, and it does that really efficiently, you know, rather than like deleting the entire contents of folder 2 and then just re-uploading folder 1. That's not ideal. So rsync can do it very efficiently. I don't know that there is a like perfect alternative to rsync. It's kind of like the idiomatic way to, you know, do transfers like that. The closest is probably SCP, but that is not even remotely as good as rsync. And then if you're using rsync for backups, which is not entirely what it's for, but a good option would be restic. That's another alternative, but that's specific to backups, and whether or not it works for you will be dependent on what you want to, you know, use with it. SMG, how much Linux should I know for web development and how useful is it? So thanks Calix for the $2, appreciate that. Keep up the great content. I will try. We're gonna go hard on Linux for another 8 streams, another 16 weeks. So hopefully at the end, everybody is you know, quite good at it. So how much Linux you should know for web development? So you don't really need to know Linux at all for web development, just because web development is not related to Linux. However, what you will need to know for Linux is the place in which your software is deployed to. So it's a good thing to know, because as a web developer, you might be asked, hey, you know, we got to get this software live and on the internet. And that's more likely than not going to involve a Linux web server and APIs that are running on Linux, as well as potentially a database running on Linux and other stuff. And if you're the guy that knows how to do that, then you're going to be very valuable. So I would say you should know enough Linux to run your own website. And that means just get it live. So you should learn perhaps Nginx, that's important. And then you should have a basic understanding of navigating a system, being able to SSH in, and then possibly setting up a database. And all of these you can practice, for free through just creating a Linux virtual machine, assuming you're on Windows, or if you're on Linux already, then you just do it like that. So, Justin asks, what is an environment variable? That's actually a good question. So thank you for that one. So you can think of environment variables as variables that are set for a given session. So if I type env and I click enter, this shows me all of my environment variables. So these will be in the form of name of environment variable, $, and then the contents of the environment variable. And all of these are going to be set through like profile files, bash profile, bash rc, and all these things. This is how all of these are going to get set. And these are a way of kind of like giving context to your shell. So you can set environment variables by doing something like export. I'll do like new var equals hello. So when I do that, I now have a new environment variable. So if I do env grep new var, you can see I now have a new environment variable down here. Now you can also use environment variables. I think you just use them directly. New var, yeah. So anywhere where you run code or you write scripts, you can access these environment variables by using the $sign. You can also use temporary environment variables by supplying key value pairs at the beginning of commands. So if I want to do hello equals world, echo hello, that didn't actually work. Why didn't that work? I gotta quote it. Oh, it's not working. I feel dumb now. Hold on. Help me, chat. What am I doing wrong? What am I missing? Anyway, if you prefix it, then you are supplying the. No, you don't need to pipe it. So if you supply an environment variable like that, then the program executing. Well, no, I shouldn't have to use export. I should be able to just do that. Why isn't that working? No. I just need a semicolon, huh? Hey, look at that. Thank you for that. Nice. So this is a temporary way of setting one. So if I now do env and I grep hello, you can see that I don't actually have any environment variable set. This is a way of doing it just for this one particular command. Missing semicolon. I don't even know why I need that. I think I've never used a semicolon there because one time I use that a lot is with Node.js applications. If I'm running it with Node or Webpack, I'll do like env equals production or node env equals production, and then that will make it work. So it could just be. It could be that this is not available at the time this echoes. I want to actually try something. Yeah, see? Okay, so it's just not working in that one instance. You can see it's working now. So if I supply the environment variable here and then I specify the script to run, and in that script is just echoing the environment variable, then you can see that it outputs properly. This is what I was thinking of. I'm not sure why I actually needed the semicolon, but that's see, even I can learn something new too. Bash scripting looks like PHP. No. There's a lot of bash tokens like $ and @ symbol and all kinds of different stuff. Subprocess has the variable. Okay, makes sense. Got it. Yep, you're welcome, Justin. Hopefully that answered all that. And oh, I should also mention that even variables that you export, they're only present in your shell until you exit the shell. So if I were to close my terminal, open a new terminal, then new var would be gone. If I want them to be permanently in my shell, I need to add them to my bash RC file or bash profile. I'm sorry, bash_profile. Yeah, without the semicolon, wouldn't it think it's a command line argument instead of a separate program? Yeah, that's probably it. It's probably because it was giving the program echo the contents of the environment variable, but I was doing $hello as if it already existed within, you know, that thing. So that actually makes sense now. I kind of like set myself up for failure there. No worries. No worries. I learned something too. I think we all can, right? Mike asks, is there anything that cannot be accomplished at the command line, or is it just as capable as a GUI? So that's hard to answer. Part of it depends on how you want to use your system. So if you want to use your Linux system for, say, like cloud hosting in the cloud, then the answer is yes. Everything that you can do in a GUI, you can do on the command line. And that's because more often than not, a cloud server is not actually going to have anything. You know, you're not going to get a reminder, you're not going to get an X session, you're not going to get anything like that. Oh wow, Fidget. I've been doing it for 5 years now, Felix Food. Yeah, well, thank you for joining on the stream, Fidget. Yeah, you're one of the probably like oldest members, and yeah, it's actually almost 4 years. Yeah, the Discord was opened in July of 2018, and I started streaming in August of 2018. So yeah, streams have been going on for about 4 years now, but yep, I remember your name, and thanks a lot for the support, and thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this is a topic that you can benefit from. Yeah, just do as Kev said, bash profile and add export. Export will make it part of your, yeah, been here a good minute for sure, been here forever. Adam is dead, yes, Adam is dead, but I am, can we get the invite to the Discord? Yes. There's your invite. There's the permanent link. You can share it and join it any way that you want. Okay, so back to Mike's question. So there are going to be programs that they only work with a GUI. You know, for instance, like I edit my videos on YouTube. I use a program called Kdenlive or KDENlive, or I'm not actually sure how to pronounce it. Obviously, I can't use that at a terminal. You know, I can open it from the terminal, but I can't do my work there. There are things called TUIs. This is a terminal UI. This is probably most commonly found when you do like network installs for Linux distros, or if you do like an alternative ISO, like a minimal thing, you'll install your Linux system entirely through a TUI, and this is just a GUI that you would find inside that you would open from a terminal. Can use FFmpeg. Let's see. Yeah, so I want to go back to like bash profile and whatnot. Sometimes there's some confusions on there. So most people have a bash RC and most people have a bash profile. The only real difference between the two is bash profile will only execute for what's called a login shell. This is also true of /etc/profile. So a login shell is one which you've logged into. That would be either when your Linux machine starts up and you type your username and password, that's a login. If your Linux machine starts up and you're at the actual like console, you don't have a GUI and you log into that, that's a login. If you SSH into another machine, that's a login. if I open up a terminal right now while I'm streaming, that is not a login. I'm already logged in. I'm just getting a new terminal. So if it's a login shell, it's going to run bash profile, which I think usually also runs bash rc anyway. And then bash rc is going to run no matter what. And then etc profile is going to run before bash profile. That's kind of like the global login shell profile. And then I think the last one is dot profile in the home directory. I think that only runs if dot bash profile does not exist. So I guess where you put things, I do pretty much everything in bash rc. I don't bother with bash profile. I just, mostly because for my use case, I don't generally make a distinction between my like login shell and my normal shell. I want them all to be the same. So, and I think Mac OS actually treats it that way. I think no matter what you open in Mac OS, it's all considered a login shell. So they've kind of disambiguated that a little bit. He uses Nano. I can't stand Nano. Prove it myself. Yeah, you know, it's editors are preference. I also know how to use Vim. I do, and most of the times I'm using Nano, it's for very basic stuff. I'm editing like a small script. I'm editing like an Nginx configuration or just very basic things. I would never use it for anything major. Great per usual, even though shirt wrinkly. Sure. Sorry, can't unsee once you see it. That's funny. Yeah, it's should have ironed it. Thanks a lot for the $20 though. I appreciate it. I'll use it to buy non-wrinkly shirts. I know it looks like I just rolled out of bed, but I swear I didn't. Took it out of my laundry basket and it was a little wrinkly. Yep, Emacs. Magic is trying to convince me to use Emacs. Emacs more like eBloat. It's funny. You know, it's editors. I truly believe, you know, I tell people like, you know, my editor is the best editor, but honestly, I'm just doing it just to create discussion around it. I don't think that my stuff is the best, and I think in general nobody's stuff is truly the best. If there were like an objective best editor and that was just it, then everybody would use the same one. You know, there's a reason why there's tons of different editors, and there's a reason why everybody doesn't use the same one, and it's because there is just no objective best. There's only like preferences and ones that exist that are great for a particular use case. Emacs isn't OS by itself. I'm sold out to VS Code. Their plugin environment is finally sufficient. It's, you know, I might ultimately end up on VS Code. I don't know. I'm going to hold out on Atom for as long as I can until I like actually can't use it. And yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Oh, this was another good question. I'm really glad this was asked. So I've seen people with colorful terminals, including things like git branch and other info. How do they do that? This is asked by Marcus82. So there is an environment variable called PS1, and the PS1 variable determines what this looks like. And this is immediately outlined, I think, in bash rc. So I'm going to open my bash rc file, which is located in my home folder. I think it's in here. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So this is where it's described on what the like default thing should look like. And it's primarily just this, \u for the user, @\h for the host, :\w for the path, and then $$ just to actually do a literal $, and then a space. So this is what determines what that actually looks like. So what a lot of people do is they modify this to also include like git branch information, add different colors. If they want like their username to be red, they can add it here. Like you can customize this in any number of ways. You can actually customize it like on the fly. So if I wanted to change what this looked like right now, I could do ps1 equals quote, I'll do like command here, like a caret, And you can see now that I've changed my terminal. So command here, you know, I can do ls-l, and you can see like it doesn't even have the old stuff anymore. I've totally changed the default thing. So if I can change it that easy, I can also change it to be colorful and contain get branch info and whatnot. And if I want to revert, all I got to do is just source my bash RC file. And then that'll give me my shell back the way it used to be. So yeah, to answer his question, you customize it there in the bash RC file. And I think, I haven't Googled it, but I'm pretty sure if I Google, you know, some like pre-built default, I don't know what they call it, default command or default descriptor, I'm not sure exactly, but I'm sure you can find scripts out there. We just copy and paste them in and they give you some cool terminal output. But does it stay that way if you exit and come back? So it does not stay that way if I just do ps1 equals. It does stay that way if I modify the .bash rc file. Whatever you modify there, that's going to be permanent in your terminals. Prompt, default prompt. That's it. Thank you. Yep, it's called the default prompt. So if you want to change the default prompt, you do so in .bash rc. That word was escaping me. Thank you, Bratwurst. Make it say rm-arms. No way. No way, no way. Thomas said, I use PHP Storm. It has great tools for database, PHP web. Plugins for my favorite framework. Works really well. I make a living writing code and don't mind paying for good tools. Yeah, I agree. So PHP Storm was actually the very first JetBrains editor that I ever used, and this would have been in 2013. It's like PHP Storm 7, maybe 6. I don't remember exactly, but that was the very first one I ever used, and I loved it. It was excellent because, as a lot of you may know, I was formerly a PHP developer up until 2015. And that was the first one I used. I then went to WebStorm with JetBrains, and then I eventually went to Atom. I pretty much stayed there. And even today, I say that JetBrains products, for sure, in my opinion, they are the most superior products for sure. They just have a problem. They cost money. You know, well, the stuff people generally need costs money. You know, you can get PyCharm Community, of course, that's free. You know, you can get IntelliJ IDEA or IDE, whatever it is for like Java, you know, that's free. But if you want like the full experience with all the stuff, the full integrated environment, then got to pay the monies. One, two, three. I am using Xubuntu, which is downstream of Debian. Yeah, they're like Adobe Photoshop, for sure. Yeah, I consider JetBrains to be a lot like Adobe. You know, and Atom, VS Code, all these, they're like the GIMP, you know, to Photoshop of Linux. This is another good question asked by Unknown. I don't really understand standard in, standard out, how those things work. Can you explain? Okay, so this goes back to David's everything is a file. So when a process starts, you get 3 file descriptors right away. You get 0, which is standard in, you get 1, which is standard out, and you get 2, which is standard error, or standard error. So you can think of standard out as just any output that your program makes. So if I do something simple like echo hello, the standard out here is hello. If I do something like echo hello and I pipe it to cat, then I can say the standard in is hello and the standard out is also hello. Now, the thing with standard in is, from the standpoint of programs on Linux, the program does not know exactly what the standard in is. It just knows the value. So it doesn't know if a keyboard typed it. It doesn't know if it was the output of another program. And it doesn't know if it just came from some other source. All it knows is that I got these 5 bytes as input, and I need to now do something with that input. And then standard error is programs can write to a special output stream called standard error. And by default, standard error gets lumped into standard out. Now you can, probably outside the scope of this stream, but you can redirect this output to various locations. You can also like suppress standard out if you just want standard error. You can suppress standard error if you just want standard out. You can suppress everything. You can suppress nothing, which is the default. There's a lot of ways you can manipulate it. So in short, think of standard in as input supplied to a program, and think of standard out as output that's produced by a program. That's probably the easiest way. My question about logging terminal output seems to be buried. Well, go ahead and ask it again. I just didn't see it. If you ask it again, I'll answer it. Can I use standard error for kernel panic? So kernel panics generally show up in, I think, dmessage, which is like a syslog. As far as I know, kernel panics can't be recovered from. I think that just means it's done. So if you're getting a kernel panic, your system, I think, has crashed at that point. Whether or not that's standard error or not, I don't know. That would be kernel produced output. I don't know that that follows the same rules. That's, I think, a little bit beyond my knowledge. I'm not sure actually how to answer that. What can I do with environment variables? So you can use them anywhere. You can just access them as context for your shell and the environment for which a program is being executed. They have a number of different uses. You know, they're good for like paths. Some people put keys there. Less common, but people do it. Also, like configuration. The biggest thing is paths. So, grep path. You know, your path variable is often your longest, and this is what determines when you type a word, and Linux can resolve that word to an actual command. The way it resolves it is by checking all of these folders, and each folder is separated by a colon. So it checks them in order. You know, so if I type ls and I do which ls, it's in bin ls. So it's located that because /bin somewhere is in my path. I don't see it, but it's in here. Here it is. So that's why it's able to find ls. If I were to remove bin from my path, I wouldn't be able to run ls. Manwich. Is that a thing? It is. Locate a command. That's funny. Okay, last couple questions. Vorex, this is another good question. I know about top, but is there other ways I can monitor my Linux system? Yes, there are tons of different ways. So you know about top. There's also a kind of better top called htop. This is one which has you know, more colors. It's a little more graphical, and it's a lot more useful if I don't have the size of this terminal, you know, blown up to huge size just so everybody can see. But you get a lot of different data in here. So this is a pretty good tool. It's an improvement upon htop. This is usually the one I use. I don't usually use top. Next one is if you want to monitor disk activity, you can use iotop and do sudo. So this will give you like the amount of disk being written. So if you have a high rate of writes or reads from your disks, you can use this to kind of debug it. This will tell you exactly what's going on. So right now there's not a whole lot of anything because there's nothing on my system really being written to. But if I were to write a lot of information, then you would see this would jump up. Excuse me. So that's going for disk. Next one is network activity. The two I wanted to show was, one is called nethogs. So nethogs, you can see that's like I'm running OBS. So, you know, this is sending 1000 KB a second, which makes sense because that's about what I'm streaming at. I'm streaming at like 12 megabits. So that will show you that. The other way, this is good if you want to know like what program is using what network. If you want to just know just plain old like network activity, you can also use iftop. iftop will show you like the actual host name and IPs of what's being sent. And again, this is also a program that looks better if it's less, you know, condensed. But you can see like I'm guessing this is like a YouTube ingest server, because this is where the majority of the stuff is occurring. So this is probably my stream right now, and the rest of the stuff could be whatever. It could be the chat, you know, some like EC2 instances. That could maybe be like a website I have open. So this is another way of figuring out what's going on in terms of network. Let me check for any questions here. Yeah, VMstat. Another good one. You know, it's also free, you know, for like memory. Systat. No, not systat, sorry. Yeah, iftop is good. There's a lot of different tools, and those are just the ones that I think everything on there other than nethogs is like you can just expect it to be on the system already. I think there was another one that was like like ntop, or is there ntop? I thought there was ntop. Nope, maybe I might just be like making stuff up. Dude, unique and iftop, both good things I've forgotten. Yep, uptime, that's right. 35 days. That gives you your load averages, and then also how long your system's been up. Mine says 15 users, but that's just because I have tons of terminals open that are acting like login shells. So hopefully that helped. There's a lot of different monitoring options. Does Linux support aliases? So it does. So if you want to alias things, you can use the word alias, specify the name, $, and then quotes, and what you want to run. So if you wanted to create an alias such as like list files, for instance, so alias list files, and you could alias that to ls-l, then now you have an alias. The cool thing about aliases is they'll actually autocomplete. So if I do like list_f, and click enter, then it'll autocomplete list files. I can click enter, and it's as if I'm running ls-l. I can also run which on it. Oh, actually, I guess I can't run which on it. Maybe I gotta do alias. Yeah, so if you do alias list files, it tells you what the alias actually is. Now, this like environment variable does not persist if I shut down my terminal. Excuse me, I'm not feeling well today. This does not persist across terminals, so what you would have to do in this case is add this along with your environment variables to like bashrc. Yeah, alias. Definitely, absolutely do not do what Zach just said in the chat. So if you do that, you'll wipe your hard drive by trying to list files. Yeah, so you would place your aliases in bashrc or bash profile, and then that will be good to go for you there. Zach really does want to delete things. That's what he does. He just comes here, he just wants to delete everything. In 2022, any command like free or df for du should use -h by default. Am I right? You are right. You are right. It's like wildly unuseful to not have it do that. In fact, one thing I noticed is I just upgraded from Xubuntu 20.04 to 22. No, that's not right. From 18.04 to 20.04. And one thing I noticed is the information in top is now in megabytes. It used to be in kilobytes. So this is new. I'm guessing just because it's, you know, the RAM is getting so big. People are putting like terabytes of RAM in their system, and probably when they invented this screen, that wasn't something that was all that common. But I've noticed it's now it's now megabytes. So that's excellent. Hello, sorry I'm late. Oh, I haven't seen you in forever. Welcome. I think you're the Dawn. Yeah, I haven't seen you in forever. Well, welcome to the stream. Glad you made it. Yeah, we are an hour earlier now. I think I remember where you live. I won't state it, just for your own privacy. But yeah, it's like an hour earlier now. I want to use Arch. Well, I think I'm eventually going to use Arch. I eventually want to move to a rolling release thing. I'm sorry, I'm really feeling not good. The stream must go on. I'm not going to let my weird sounding voice stop us from learning some Linux. Don't worry. Yeah, I think I'm eventually going to use Arch, and that's just purely because of the rolling release. I'm so sick and tired of having to do like mid-distro upgrades because they just don't tend to turn out correct. You know, when you go from 18.04 to 20.04, things tend to break, and you can only do it one at a time. So now I'm also going to have to go from 20.04 to 22.04 and risk more stuff breaking. I just don't want to deal with that. So I'm considering, yeah. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay, Ray. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, Ray. I'm okay. I started feeling some hoarseness in my throat last couple days, and kind of like has some sore throat going on. But I'm actually feeling better. I felt way worse yesterday. I don't have the COVID though. I already got COVID. Yeah, so back to Zach's point, I think everybody is moving towards more human readable stuff. Top already did, and I expect more stuff to do that in the long term. If you switch to Arch, I swear. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. All right, the final question, and then I'll just take chat questions, and I think we'll just wrap it up here. So if you have any more questions you want to ask me, we're gonna be finishing up here shortly. So now would be the time to ask. So, Unknown asks, how can I find files in Linux? So there's two ways that I usually find files. The first is through locate. So you can do locate -rc. Now the thing about locate is locate requires you to run update db periodically. So you run update db, that populates a database. You can then use locate. That's based on mlocate. And this works okay. I think some systems even have update DB on like a cron job. That way your locate's always ready to go. But that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is through using just the find command. So if I want to go to a home folder, I can do find. Oops. Actually, let me go to temp. So if I just go to temp, I do find dot, it just gives me all the stuff in there. If I go to a home folder, I can do find dot name, do like -rc. Now what this does is this will look through the path dot, so the current folder and beyond. It's recursive by default, and it'll tell me exactly where the name of any of these files go. Now you can specify patterns. You have to specify a specific name, and then it will give you the path to whatever you're looking for. So these are the two ways to do it. I usually use both, just depends on, I tend to use a locate a lot of the time, but I also use find in some cases. I think locate might be specific. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think locate might be specific to certain distros only, whereas I think find is present everywhere. So find is yeah, remember to sudo, you get a bazillion perm denied. Yep. Yeah, that's especially true if you're going to do like find system-wide, because if you do find and you specify slash, I'll show you what Zach's talking about. So if you do find slash name -rc and I'm not specifying sudo, you'll see in just a second it'll start looking in various places that it just can't access, such as like /proc, all the read-only file systems for Linux. It'll look in there and it won't be able to find anything. And so you'll get these permission denied things. So if you think you're going to be also looking through files that only root owns or can see, then you need to make sure to put sudo, and then that'll be okay. Can confirm locate works on Fedora. Okay, good to know. So definitely Fedora and definitely Ubuntu systems. Definitely works. All right, those are for the questions. I'm gonna look through the chat here. Yeah, MIB is maybe byte. Yeah, you're right. Sorry about that. Maybe byte. Ooh, btop. What was btop? Is this gonna like wipe my system live on stream? I don't know what btop is, but I want it. What's it do? Really? So I just like make it just slightly wider? That's so dumb. So it was that's kind of cool. I like that. Oh, I get like temperatures too. I don't know. This is kind of neat. Who just suggested this? Greg. Btop is my new favorite thing. You know, it's funny, when I first started using Linux, and I think a lot of people are probably like this as well, is I was obsessed with like system statistics. You know, I always wanted to know like my temperatures and my network speed and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know, that's just what I was into. You know, I wanted to look like a hacker, something like that. And so this is kind of cool because this reminds me of like something that if somebody was like just getting into Linux, that they would really love this particular utility. Hold on one second. There, just turn my light on so I can actually see what's going on here. Yeah, this is a really cool program. So thanks a lot for sharing that one. Let me check any other questions here. Oh, Ray said, I'm doing an internship in 2 weeks as a backend dev. The system in the laptop is Windows, but I'm not familiar with all of the prompts. Is there any way to use Bash terminal and a Windows PC at work? Yes. So the best way to do that, in my opinion, is just to install Git along with Git Bash. And that will give you a, what is it, min-GW, minimum GNU for Windows. And that'll give you more or less all the Bash stuff in Windows. So yeah, I would just get Git Bash. You'll probably also need Git anyways if you're a backend dev. So that'd be my advice. Oh, I'm wrong. Locate is not a Debian thing. Huh. Question, kind of off topic, but why is it so many devs on YouTube use expensive MacBooks as their main PC, usually connected to an external monitor? I know iOS has a terminal, but why not use Linux machines? That's a good question. I don't know. I think it just depends where you live. I know I'm probably stereotyping, but when I was working in Silicon Valley in Palo Alto, California, everybody had MacBooks. Every single person on the planet. There was no Linux, there was no Windows, it was all MacBooks. You know, the classic, like, you know, sitting in Starbucks, you know, working on your stuff. I don't know. I guess that works there. But yeah, I don't know. For where I'm from, nobody has Macs. Everybody has Windows. Well, pretty much everybody has Windows only, but yeah, and there's nothing like overly wrong with that. You know, the thing with Mac OS is it just kind of works. It just kind of works. It's also kind of like hip, you know, if that's what you're into. So yeah, corporate world. I mean, Windows as well, I guess. MacBook's kind of expensive, but I get confused between Bash RC and Bash Profile. So the only difference is one runs always and one runs only on the login shells. So Bash RC would be good for like configuration of Bash, be good for like aliases and environment variables and whatnot. Bash Profile would be good for things that are specific to the login. So maybe like desired window manager. I'm not entirely sure. What is even in my, I don't even know what's in my Bash profile. Let's just find out. I don't have a Bash profile. Really? I don't have a Bash profile. I just have a Bash RC. So I guess for me there's nothing worthwhile. Oh yeah, Bash aliases too. There's also a Bash logout. That's for a login shell. When you log out, it'll run that as like cleanup. So I guess you could like wipe your history there, or do other cleanup tasks. I have a question not related to Linux. How do software engineers like you balance working and personal life? Well, so I'm not that great at that. I have pretty much only a professional life, or at least I did until recently. And I guess the way you got to balance it is you have to force yourself to recognize that not everything is about work, and carve out some time for yourself. Because you got to be top notch personally before you can be top notch professionally. Also, get a nice mattress, shoes, and chairs. Those are the 3 things in life as a software engineer you shouldn't skimp out on. Mattress, shoes, chairs. Buy the best you can get of all those things. Do you have anything to say about stereotype of a soy dev? Not really. I don't. I try not to engage too much in that stuff. I mean, people have their ways they do things, and that's totally fine. What is this thing you're displaying in your terminal? It's a thing that my new friend Greg from the chat just showed me about, called btop. Kind of cool. I think I actually scroll here. Yeah. Oh, I can. That's cool. It's like letting me click around too. It's like mouse enabled. I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty cool. I'm actually really impressed. Yeah, block time out on your calendar. If you have a work from home full time, try to have a dedicated home office where you can close the door when you leave work. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, DV man, invest in yourself for sure. You have to invest in yourself first and foremost. You have to be at your peak, and then you'll be at your professional peak too. So you gotta get your own life right before you get your professional stuff good. It's harder from work from home, obviously, because you're the place that you exist. I'm work from home except for 1 day a week, and even that is only if I want to go in. And so, my home is also my office, and it's hard to sometimes mentally disconnect the 2 things. So you just really got to work at it. You really got to find ways to disconnect it. Also, go touch grass every now and again. Go say hi to somebody. AppGet Hollywood. How intensive is btop compared to htop? I don't know. It's not at the top of my CPU list, so that's good. Let's see. Just checking chat here. I think we're pretty much at the end. Okay, last call for questions. If not, we're gonna wrap it up here. Oh, did you like your experience in Silicon Valley? I did. It's kind of a different place. The culture out there it was actually a little too cutthroat for me. Actually, it's not really how I am. What I did notice is I noticed very high motivation. Obviously, there's people that go there specifically to make a living in that arena. But what I noticed is people will do anything to get to the top. Anything. Doesn't matter who they crush or step on along the way. And I didn't particularly care for that part of that culture. I did not like. I love the weather though. But that was terrific. I was actually working in a literal garage. I'm actually going to show everybody right now a picture of an actual Silicon Valley garage office that I was working in. No kidding. This was the actual, there you go. I actually worked in a garage in Palo Alto, California. No lie. To build a startup. So this was how it was done. I got that experience, so that was interesting. This was about 6.5 years ago. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I recommend anybody who can get involved into something out there, because it's a great experience. You're going to find yourself working very hard, but you're most likely going to be working on something important too, because despite how you might feel about that side of the country, it's still a place where innovation happens a lot. It's still a place where a lot of smart people exist. and a lot of cool things are being built. I think over time this might become less true, but it's, yeah. Donovan, thanks for the streams again. We'll watch the stream, catch up tomorrow. Hope you feel better soon. Well, thank you so much for the, it was like $10. I appreciate that. And yeah, all these streams are recorded. You can watch them later. There was one other stream from 2 weeks ago that you're more than welcome to watch. And so, yeah. Do you really need 6 monitors? Yes, I actually have 8 monitors that I'm looking at right now on my current system. So 6 was just all I had at the time. 8 is my preferred amount. So yeah, that's if you can get to Silicon Valley and do that experience and enjoy that, then I recommend everybody do it. Very expensive to live, but you know, if you have the right talent and you can get involved with the right people, then you can probably spend some time out there at no cost to yourself. That's right, James. Much more creative freedom at a startup as opposed to here's your JR ticket. Yeah, that's exactly correct. You know, it's the thing about that is sometimes it's very risky. You know, you're gonna end up working 7 days a week, you know, 14 hours a day, and nothing might come of it. You know, I guess that's a potential outcome, and it was kind of the outcome for the stuff that I was doing. But you know, hey, you can't put a price on experience. You're always gonna have that. That's the thing. So do you ever really lose? You know, if you're getting good experience. So that's how I've always looked at it. You know, that's something I can say that I did. And at least from my perspective, you know, I did so successfully, even though, you know, it didn't like fully work out. Rural South Carolina. I used to live in South Carolina. I was previously in the Air Force. I lived in Sumter, South Carolina for 6 years. So I'm somewhat familiar with the area. I really like South Carolina. I think if there wasn't a job that brought me to Florida after getting out, I think I would have potentially stayed in South Carolina. I always really liked that state. How do you have 8 HDMI ports? I don't. So I use 2 Quadro P1000, and each Quadro P1000 has 4 mini DisplayPort. I did at one point have an NVS, what was it, like an NVS 810. It was a single GPU that had 8 mini display ports, but what I found out is it only supported 60 frames per second at 1080p, and my monitors were 2K, and I didn't want it at 30 frames per second because I thought that would like make me dizzy. I don't particularly care about the frame rate, but it also can't look like a slideshow and make me dizzy, you know. Did you burn out often? Yeah, I burned out super hard. I dealt with a ton of different issues. That was a very tough time. Very, very tough. Not for the faint of heart to do those sorts of things. In which cases should I tolerate stress or exploitation at work? So you should never tolerate exploitation. Like, the employee-employer relationship is a two-way street. They need you, you need them. It's not just one way. So if you're being mistreated, you gotta keep in mind that as a programmer, you already have a skill set that's in demand. So if you're being mistreated at work, and you excuse me. Yeah, so if you're being mistreated at work, the only real remedy there is just to leave. I'm sorry, I'm like dying here. Yeah, if you're being mistreated at work, the only real remedy is just to leave the company. All right, sorry about that. We're gonna wrap this up shortly. I can like barely talk and breathe right now. So yeah, if you're being exploited at work, you have to just leave. That's the only real solution for that. Like, don't, you know, just recognize that that you're valuable to the company. You know, the company needs you. You know, you need the money. You need the company. It's supposed to be a, you know, one hand shakes the other kind of thing. It's not supposed to be like, oh, we will give you money and you will just do things and you don't get to say anything, or, it's like, no, that's not how it works. Like, you have an in-demand skill set. People that are software engineers and web developers and all this, like, you have a skill set for which there are more jobs than people that need work. And so you got the leverage. Use it. Use it. It's don't take their crap, for lack of a better word. So yeah. Now stress is a different thing. Keep in mind that businesses do have one singular objective, and that's to make a lot of money. And to make a lot of money often requires shipping products fast. Fast and accurately. So there's going to be at least some stress in doing that. So as far as the stress goes, you can't expect to not be stressed. But what you can do is you can manage that stress in a way where it's not that big of a deal. One of the big problems is there's a disconnect between technical people and non-technical people at a business. And so oftentimes people get stressed out because they take on more than they can do, but the non-technical people think it's like a normal amount of stuff. So the best way to ensure you don't end up in such a situation is to set the right expectation. Say like, look, this is the most I can do. That's it. This is it. This is what I can do. And you just do that. You just set the right expectation. The good thing about non-technical people is they're not going to know the difference. They're not going to know. If you tell somebody, if you work in tech long enough, you'll find out that at some point in your career, something that takes a minute, they think takes 5 days. And there's going to be a lot of things where they think it takes 5 minutes, but it actually takes 5 days. And so, there's a lot of this like mismatch in how long things ought to take and how much effort is involved. And this turns into overly stressful environments because, you're trying to over deliver because they may be over promised. So the question is how to log terminal output to a file similar to iterm2. Yeah, so you just use the right caret. Right caret will redirect standard out, and you can supply a file. So if you have like ls-l and you have all this, you can do ls-l right caret, output .text. You can see when I do that, you don't see anything, but if I cat output.text, then I get all the stuff that I put in there. So that's a way of logging terminal output. Yep, be a clear communicator. I think we could do an entire stream on getting GPU to work on Linux. Yeah, well, getting GPUs to work on Linux is all part of the Linux thing. So, okay, I think I'm gonna wrap up the stream now. I'm not feeling so hot, so I think we're gonna kind of call it here. I really appreciate everybody joining. Thanks a lot. I think we hit 100 and peak viewership, 113, I think. So that's pretty good. We're going to be doing this another 8 times. I'm going to post the Discord link. If you want to go further, we have a group of 21,000 people on Discord. You can join up. I'm also there. It's not just for people, it's for me as well. So if you want to interact with me or say hi to me, that's where I'll be. And we're going to be meeting again in 2 weeks, 2 Saturdays from now, same time, 11 a.m. CDT, 4 p.m. GMT, I think. Yeah. It's also on Discord. It's under stream planning. There will be the event link, place to submit questions, and then the times that we'll be streaming. Look out for a video next weekend, also on Linux, and then that's going to drive the content of the stream after that. So that's how we'll do things. So thank you a lot for all the supporters. If you made a donation today and you do not have the supporter role on Discord, please be sure to just ask anybody with a wrench symbol or anybody with a green name on Discord, and they'll hook you up with that role. I think, yeah. So David, if you're on there, let's get you that supporter role. Other than that, I hope everybody learned a ton of different things and that this was all very clear and useful to you. And I look forward to seeing you on the next stream, future videos, and around in the Discord. So until then, have a terrific rest of your weekend, and I will see everybody around. Thanks a lot. Take care.